Humans have always looked up at the stars and wondered. We have wondered about our place in the universe. We have wondered what lies beyond the horizon. And we have always wondered about time. We wish for more of it. This desire is as old as our species. It is written in ancient myths and whispered in modern laboratories. The dream of living longer, or even living again, is a powerful force. It drives us to explore, to discover, and to challenge the very definition of what it means to be alive. This grand human story is filled with attempts to cheat death, from magical potions in fairy tales to the cutting-edge science of today. Imagine a technology so advanced that it could pause time itself, not for the whole universe, but just for you. A technology that could take a person at the very end of their life and hold them in a state of suspended animation. This is not a magic spell or a journey in a time machine. It is a real idea being explored by science. The concept is called cryonics. It is the practice of preserving a human body at extremely low temperatures. The hope is that one day, far in the future, medical science will have advanced enough to repair the damage of disease and aging. The hope is to give someone a second chance at life. This idea might sound like it comes from the pages of a science fiction novel, and in many ways it does. Writers and dreamers have imagined suspended animation for centuries. They wrote stories of astronauts sleeping through long voyages across the stars. But what happens when fiction inspires fact? What happens when we take these dreams and try to build them in the real world? Cryonics sits at that exact intersection. It is a bridge between the stories we tell and the future we hope to create. It is a bold, ambitious, and controversial experiment, a testament to our unending quest to push the boundaries of what is possible. So, let us embark on a journey into the world of extreme cold. We will explore the science, the history, and the human stories behind cryonics. We will ask the big questions. Is it possible to freeze a person and bring them back? What are the challenges? And what does this quest tell us about ourselves, our fears, and our deepest hopes for the future? Like any great exploration into the unknown, the path is filled with both incredible promise and profound uncertainty. Our journey begins now, as we step into the cold and consider the possibility of a life frozen in time. So, what exactly is this thing called cryonics? Let's break it down. The word itself comes from the Greek word cryos, which means icy cold. In simple terms, cryonics is the practice of preserving legally deceased humans or animals at very low temperatures. We are talking about temperatures colder than the coldest winter in Antarctica. The goal is not to bring them back to life with today's technology. That is impossible. The goal is to keep the body in a stable state. The hope is that future medical technology, perhaps centuries from now, will be able to revive them, cure their diseases, and reverse the aging process. This idea is not as new as you might think. The concept of preserving life by freezing has been around for a while. In the 18th century, scientists were already experimenting with freezing and reviving small insects and fish. But the modern cryonics movement really began in 1962. A man named Robert Ettinger, a college physics teacher, published a book called The Prospect of Immortality. He argued that if we could stop the process of decay by freezing, we might be able to wait for future science to catch up. His book inspired a small but dedicated group of thinkers and scientists who believed this was a real possibility. It is very important to understand a key point. Cryonics is not about freezing people who are alive. That is illegal and not what cryonics organizations do. The process begins only after a person has been declared legally dead. This means their heart has stopped beating and they are no longer breathing. Cryonicists argue that legal death is not the same as information-theoretic death. They believe that as long as the brain structure, which holds memory and personality, is intact, the person is not truly gone. The information that makes you you is still there, just waiting to be rebooted. Think of it like a computer that has been powered down. The hardware is still there. The data is still on the hard drive. It just doesn't have electricity to run. Cryonics supporters see the human brain in a similar way. They believe that if they can preserve the brain's physical structure without damage, they are preserving the person. The challenge, of course, is immense. It is a gamble on a future that we cannot predict. It is a statement of faith in the progress of science and the potential for humanity to solve even the most complex problems, including death itself. The process of cryopreservation is a race against time. The moment a person is declared legally dead, a specialized team must act quickly. The enemy is decay. Specifically, the enemy is the lack of oxygen to the brain. When the heart stops, blood flow ceases, and brain cells begin to die within minutes. To prevent this, the cryonics team immediately works to restore circulation and breathing artificially. They use equipment similar to what you would find in an emergency room. They place the patient in an ice bath to start lowering the body's temperature. This initial cooling slows down the rate of cellular damage significantly. Once the body is stabilized and cooled, the next and most critical phase begins. The team transports the patient to a cryonics facility. There, they perform a procedure that is a bit like surgery. The goal is to replace the blood and water in the body with a special fluid. This fluid is called a cryoprotectant solution. Think of it as a kind of medical-grade antifreeze. This step is absolutely crucial. If you just froze a body filled with water, the water would form sharp ice crystals. These crystals would act like tiny knives, piercing and shredding every cell, turning the delicate structures of the brain and organs into mush. With the cryoprotectant solution flowing through the veins and arteries, the body is ready for the deep freeze. The cooling process is done very slowly and carefully over several days. The patient is placed in a large, insulated container. Liquid nitrogen vapor is used to gradually bring the temperature down. The goal is to reach a state called vitrification. Instead of freezing into a solid crystal structure, the cryoprotectant solution turns the body's tissues into a glass-like solid state. This process avoids the formation of damaging ice crystals. It is the key to preserving the body's structure at the molecular level. Finally, after the long, slow cooling process is complete, the patient reaches the target temperature of about minus 196 degrees Celsius, or minus 320 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature of liquid nitrogen. The body is then placed into a large, vacuum-insulated container called a dewar. It looks like a giant high-tech thermos flask. Inside, the patient will remain suspended in liquid nitrogen. No electricity is needed to maintain this temperature, only a regular supply of liquid nitrogen. Here, in the silent cold, they will wait. They will wait for years, decades, or perhaps even centuries for the day when science might be able to call them back. The entire foundation of cryonics rests on one central scientific idea: information preservation. The theory is that everything that makes you a unique person, your memories, your personality, your skills, is stored in the physical and chemical structure of your brain. It's encoded in the complex web of trillions of connections between your neurons. If that structure can be preserved without significant damage, then, in theory, the information that is you is also preserved. Cryonics is not about preserving life as we know it. It is about preserving the blueprint of a life. The hope is that future nanotechnology could, in principle, repair the preserved brain cell by cell. The biggest scientific hurdle has always been the problem of ice. Water is the main component of our bodies, making up about 60% of our total weight. When water freezes, it expands and forms sharp, jagged crystals. You can see this when a can of soda explodes in the freezer. Imagine that happening to every single one of the trillions of cells in your body. It would cause irreversible damage. This is why simple freezing is not an option. This is where the science of vitrification comes in. By using cryoprotectant chemicals, scientists can cool biological tissue to liquid nitrogen temperatures with little to no ice crystal formation, turning it into a stable, glass-like state. However, vitrification is far from perfect. The cryoprotectant chemicals themselves are toxic to cells at high concentrations and at warmer temperatures. Scientists have to perform a delicate balancing act. They must use enough of the chemical to prevent ice formation, but not so much that the chemical toxicity destroys the cells. Even with the best current methods, some damage is unavoidable. Microscopic fractures can occur in the vitrified tissue as it cools. The long-term effects of storing a human brain at such low temperatures for centuries are also completely unknown. We are in uncharted territory. So the science of cryonics is a mixture of established principles and hopeful speculation. The principles of vitrification are real and are used today to preserve human embryos, eggs, and sperm for fertility treatments. These simple structures can be successfully thawed and used. But a human brain is astronomically more complex than a single cell. There is currently no technology that can reverse the vitrification process in a large organ, let alone an entire human body. Cryonics supporters are making a bet that the damage being done by the process today is repairable by the far more advanced medical technologies of tomorrow. The history of cryonics is filled with fascinating and sometimes controversial stories. The very first person to be cryopreserved was Dr. James Bedford, a psychology professor from California. In 1967, shortly after his death from kidney cancer, his body was cooled and placed into cryonic suspension. His case was a true pioneering effort. The methods were, honestly, pretty crude compared to today's standards. His family and a group of cryonics enthusiasts had to improvise with ice packs and basic equipment. Despite the challenges, Dr. Bedford's body remains in cryopreservation to this day at the Alcor Life Extension Foundation in Arizona, making him a symbol of the movement. Another well-known figure associated with cryonics is the legendary baseball player Ted Williams. When Williams died in 2002, a family dispute erupted over his final wishes. Some family members said he wanted to be cremated, while his son, John Henry Williams, insisted he wanted to be cryopreserved. Ultimately, Ted Williams and his son, who died a few years later, were both placed in cryonic suspension at Alcor. Their case brought a huge amount of media attention to cryonics. It moved the topic from the fringes of science fiction into the public spotlight, sparking debates in households across the country about what we should do with our bodies after death. Not all stories are about famous people. Many of the individuals in cryopreservation are ordinary people with an extraordinary hope for the future. There is the story of a 2-year-old girl from Thailand, Matharin Neovaratpong, who had a rare form of brain cancer. After she passed away in 2015, her parents, both medical engineers, decided to have her cryopreserved. They hope that future science will not only be able to revive her, but also cure the cancer that took her life. Her case is a powerful example of the deep love and hope that drives some people to choose this path, even against overwhelming odds. These stories highlight the deeply personal nature of the decision to be cryopreserved. They are not just statistics in a database, they are individuals with histories, families, and dreams. There is also the case of Kim Swotzi, a young neuroscience student who was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. She crowdfunded the money for her cryopreservation, wanting to preserve her brain in the hope of seeing the future and continuing her journey of learning. These pioneers, from the first man in the 1960s to the young people of today, represent a bold gamble on the future and a testament to the human spirit's refusal to give up. Why would someone choose cryonics? The answer for most is simple: hope. It is the hope for more time. Time to live, to love, to learn, and to experience the wonders of a future we can only imagine. For someone facing a terminal illness, modern medicine can offer comfort, but it cannot offer a cure. Cryonics presents itself as an alternative to certain death. Instead of choosing burial or cremation, which offers zero chance of revival, cryonics offers a chance, however small it may be. Proponents see it as a rational choice. They view it as an extension of emergency medicine, a final, desperate attempt to save a life when all other options have failed. The argument for cryonics is built on a strong faith in technological progress. Think about how much medicine has changed in the last century. 100 years ago, a simple infection could be a death sentence. Today, we have antibiotics. Heart attacks were once fatal. Now we have bypass surgery and transplants. Cryonics supporters project this trend into the future. They imagine a time when nanotechnology, advanced artificial intelligence, and molecular biology will be capable of incredible feats. They envision microscopic robots coursing through the bloodstream, repairing cells one by one, reversing disease, and even halting the aging process itself. This isn't just about cheating death. For some, it's about curiosity and the spirit of exploration. The universe is a vast and amazing place. Human history is just a tiny sliver of cosmic time. The opportunity to witness the future of humanity would be the greatest adventure of all. Imagine seeing humanity travel to distant stars. Imagine understanding the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. Imagine seeing what solutions we find for our biggest problems, like climate change and disease. For those with an insatiable curiosity, the chance to see what happens next is a powerful motivator, turning cryonics into a ticket to the ultimate future. Finally, there is a philosophical argument. Many who choose cryonics believe that life is inherently good and worth preserving. They reject the idea that death is a natural and acceptable end. Instead, they view death as a problem to be solved, like any other disease. From this perspective, giving up in the face of death is not an option when a potential solution, even a long shot like cryonics, exists. It is a declaration that a human life with all its memories and potential is too valuable to be simply discarded. It is a profound statement of optimism about the value of life and the power of future generations to overcome the limitations of our own time. Despite the powerful hopes of its supporters, cryonics faces a mountain of skepticism from the mainstream scientific and medical communities. The first and most significant challenge is the sheer biological complexity of the problem. Reviving a cryopreserved person is not like rebooting a computer. The process of vitrification, while better than freezing, is still damaging. The chemicals are toxic, and tiny fractures can form in the tissue. Most neuroscientists argue that the precise, delicate architecture of the brain that stores memory and personality is likely destroyed by this process. They believe that what you are preserving is not a person, but a dead body with massive structural damage. Then there are the ethical and social questions, which are just as daunting as the scientific ones. Who would pay for the revival process, which would likely be incredibly expensive? If a person is revived 200 years from now, they would have no friends, no family, and no place in society. They would be completely alone in a world that is alien to them. What legal rights would a revived person have? Would they still be married to their spouse from centuries ago? Who would be responsible for them? These are not just small details. They are profound questions about what it means to be a person and to live in a society. The cost is another major barrier. Cryopreservation is not cheap. The price for a whole-body preservation can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. A neuropreservation, where only the head is preserved, is less expensive but still costs tens of thousands. This raises an uncomfortable question. Is the chance at a second life only available to the wealthy? Many critics argue that cryonics could create a future divided into two classes: the mortals who die and the rich immortals who can afford to wait for a cure. This creates a deeply unsettling ethical dilemma about equality and justice. Finally, many people have philosophical or religious objections to cryonics. They believe that death is a natural and meaningful part of the life cycle. They argue that trying to achieve immortality is an act of hubris, an attempt to play God. From this viewpoint, a finite life has more meaning and urgency. We cherish our time because we know it is limited. The idea of living forever, or being revived in a strange future, is not seen as a dream but as a potential nightmare. For these critics, cryonics is a misguided attempt to escape the fundamental conditions of being human, a quest that misses the beauty and purpose of a single, complete life. So where does this leave us? We stand at a crossroads looking at two very different paths. One path leads to the quiet acceptance of our mortal limits. The other leads to a bold, uncertain gamble on a future technology that does not yet exist. Will science ever be able to bring a cryopreserved person back to life? The honest answer is, we simply do not know. Mainstream science says it is overwhelmingly unlikely. But the history of science is filled with things that were once considered impossible. Flying, communicating across oceans instantly, walking on the moon, these were all once dreams. If revival were to become possible, it would change everything we understand about life and death. The legal definition of death would have to be completely rewritten. Medicine would shift from just treating disease to reversing the ultimate condition, death itself. This would raise profound questions for humanity. If we could live for centuries or even millennia, how would that change society? How would we manage population growth? What would it mean for human relationships, for careers, for the very rhythm of our lives? The world would be populated by people from many different eras, a living museum of human history. The future of cryonics itself is also uncertain. It remains a fringe practice, supported by a small number of people and a handful of organizations. For it to become a mainstream option, it would require significant scientific breakthroughs that prove its feasibility. We would need to see a complex mammalian organ, like a kidney, successfully cryopreserved and then thawed and transplanted. Without such a proof of concept, cryonics will likely remain in the realm of speculative science. It is a technology waiting for its moment, a solution waiting for a problem that science can actually solve. Ultimately, the debate over cryonics is about more than just technology. It is a reflection of our deepest human desires and fears. It forces us to confront the biggest questions of all. What is a life? What is a person? Is our identity just information stored in our brain, or is it something more? And what is our relationship with time and with death? Whether cryonics ever succeeds or not, the quest itself tells us something important about our species. It shows that we are dreamers and explorers, always pushing against our boundaries, always reaching for the stars, and always hoping for just a little more time. As we look out into the cosmos, we see a universe of immense timescales. Stars are born, live for billions of years, and then die. Galaxies collide over eons. On this grand cosmic calendar, a human lifetime is less than a blink of an eye. We are fleeting creatures, born on a small planet, with a brief moment to experience the wonder of existence. It is no surprise, then, that we dream of extending that moment. This desire is not a modern invention. It is woven into the very fabric of our consciousness. It is the engine of our myths, our religions, and our science. Cryonics is one of the boldest expressions of this ancient dream. It is an attempt to use the tools of reason and technology to build a bridge across the chasm of death. It is a message in a bottle, thrown into the ocean of time. The message says, we were here, we lived, and we hoped to live again. It is an act of profound optimism, a bet that the future will be a better place and that the people of the future will be wise and compassionate enough to care about those who came before them. It is a gamble, to be sure, but one that some are willing to take against the certainty of oblivion. The critics may very well be right. The obstacles may be too great. The delicate structures of the mind may be lost forever in the cold, but the questions raised by cryonics will remain. They push us to think about what we value most. They force us to consider the future of our species and our place in the universe. Even if we reject the idea of being frozen, the conversation itself is valuable. It encourages us to live our finite lives with more purpose and appreciation, to cherish the time we have, because, for now, it is all we can be sure of. In the end, the story of cryonics is a human story. It is about our struggle against limits, our fear of ending, and our incredible capacity for hope. It reminds us that we are a species that looks up at the night sky and does not just see points of light. We see other worlds, we see possibilities, and we see a future that is not yet written. Whether that future holds a second chance at life in a world beyond our imagining, only time, a great deal of it, will tell. For now, we are here, in this moment, with the cosmos all around us, and the choice of what to believe is our own.